Bem-vindos a Inteligências Lúdicas. Meu nome é Rodrigo Manique, estou aqui com o meu brother LP e o nosso incrível, amazing Konieczka. Hello, Corey.
Hi.
Good to
It's
see
very
you
nice
again.
having you here with us again.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
It's been around 2 years last time we talked.
Sounds about right.
Yes, exactly. And Corey, and you always bringing us lots of good experiences and good to have good time. Today, we will talk about Mandalorian, right? The board game. Corey, after our last chat, where we talked about your three fantastic games, the Initiative, which was a mind-blowing game. It is 3,000 Scoundrels and Voices in My Head.
Mm-hmm.
And now I need to tell you, when the Mandalorian came out, and I was so excited because, you've created so many beloved games based on very popular IPs. A lot of thematic games, which you do really well. So you've got a lot of experience under your belt,
No, it's fun.
Star Wars Rebellion, Battlestar Galactica, Gears of War, among others. Many, many, many. So, okay. And so with this, how was it working on Mandalorian?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, my last few games have all been new original IPs, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right? It was like my favorite movie growing up. And so the opportunity to make new Star Wars games was always in the back of my mind. And the idea of making a Star Wars game based off the Mandalorian show is really appealing to me because there aren't really any other board games that I'm aware of based off of the show. And I think it's been some of the best Star Wars content we've gotten in the last decade. So I came up with the idea, let's make a game based off the show. We pitched it to Lucasfilm and they were really excited. That's pretty much
cool.
it.
So, comes from inside your heart, right?
Yeah, so we were inspired.
Interesting, very cool. And what was the challenge of working on The Mandalorian?
Yeah, so in my mind, The Mandalorian is a very specific part of Star Wars, right? It's about a bounty hunter who's going off doing jobs. He doesn't necessarily know who he can trust. And he's oftentimes outgunned and outmatched and just kind of like throwing you into there and capturing all those themes into a game. Another important part to me was I wanted this game to be accessible because I know a lot of Star Wars fans will watch this with their family, or there are plenty of Star Wars people who aren't necessarily board gamers. But if you made the game accessible enough, they would certainly want to play the game. So it was a challenge to make a game that would be fun for both hobby gamers, but also to people who maybe don't play really heavy board games.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I played the first game, and before Alepe asks his question, were there any particular challenges in designing the mechanics to reflect the bounty hunter lifestyle?
I don't know if there were any specific challenges with it. Like it was just kind of zeroing in on the specifics of what you want to be able to do. And that's always what I approach a game design with. What do players want to be able to do? If you were the Mandalorian, what would you want to be able to do? And you're like, well, he's got a huge armament of all these cool weapons. He's got a flamethrower. He's got a sniper rifle. He's got whistling birds, a jetpack. Like, how do you let people live that dream?
The game is a very original game. It's if you have to categorize the game, which style? How would you name the style of the game?
I mean, like an adventure book game. There's, I think, a handful of other games that are in that category where the game is an adventure that you're playing without a map, or the map is printed within a book that you're using. Obviously, all the games in that style have their own mechanics. But I think they share the same DNA of you're controlling a character, you're living their life, and the missions are in a book.
And you feel the passing of the episodes of the series as you progress in the game. And you gave us the opportunity to play in a what if style. If Mando in that part of the story was with Cara Dune instead of, it's very appealing for those who watch the show and can instantly recognize the episode that the adventure was taken from. And you are a genius in this kind of games. You are the master of thematic games. And how was it to put it in inside the box? Take the series, capture its essence, and put inside the box. What was your thought process?
Yeah, so I mean, we started by looking at, well, who are the major characters that you want to be able to play? And so we had a list of who might make the cut or not. And then we looked at each episode. And an interesting thing about The Mandalorian as a show is that each episode is kind of like a standalone adventure. Unlike a lot of modern television that has like an overarching story that it's always building on, there is a story behind the scenes, but they're very self-contained missions that he's going on with very specific goals. And so we made a list of like, here's every mission that he goes on within the first season of the show. And we had a whole ton of stuff. And then we had to go through and say, well, which of these would actually be fun on the tabletop? And there was certain criteria that would go into that. We'd look at, well, there need to be multiple enemies that he's fighting against, because if you're just running around shooting the mudhorn, that's not necessarily going to be fun and interesting. There needs to be an interesting location that the story takes place at. It has to be an important part of the plot. And so once we kind of narrowed it down to fulfilling all those pieces of criteria, those are missions that we decided on. And then we went back and we looked at, okay, well, obviously we want people to be able to replay this and to be able to use these missions as more than just one-offs. And so that's when we invented the mercenary mission system, where you could take these special missions, you can play them on any map that you want. And it let us take some of the ideas from some different episodes and some inspiration from the lore, and really give players a lot more game out of the box. Because you could, I mean, I've played the base game, I don't know, 50, 100 times, and I still see like combinations of things. I'm like, oh, I've never played these characters with this mercenary mission on this map. And you get these wild moments that you wouldn't expect.
The comic book style of the introduction of the mission, you used it in another game, but in this game it gives you the flavor of the game and puts you in the moods, in the atmosphere of the game.
I've worked on so many games through the years where you start a mission and before you play, you read a couple paragraphs of text and that's your intro, and then you get into it. And I've just felt like, man, I've been there. I've done that. What can we do that would be interesting and really hook players? And so that's where we decided to have an artist basically make a comic book for an intro for each of the stories. And it was interesting because we were pulling the text directly from the show. And so it's for someone who hasn't seen the show. Let's say that your uncle's over and you're like, hey, I know you're a Star Wars fan, you haven't seen Mandalorian, but you're going to enjoy this game. And you can show them like the intro and they can read through it really fast. And like, oh, okay, I understand who this character is. I understand why we're here, and I'm invested. And it's just a lot of fun.
So how does it feel to be working with the Star Wars franchise again after a few years?
I mean, it was great. It was great coming back. It felt like traveling home, right? I told you I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but also just like working with the people at Lucasfilm again, like they're a great group of people. I really enjoy working with them. And I mean, been doing Star Wars games for, I don't know how long it's been, probably a decade or so. And I do enjoy working on original IPs. And so I really enjoyed making The Initiative and Voices and Scoundrels. But I also enjoy like a change of pace. And so like when you work on an IP as opposed to an original game, you have some of the work already done for you, right? The story already exists, the characters already exist, and people love these characters and stories. And so it's very inspiring, and it was exciting to come back.
Playing with the IG-11 is really cool. Thank
Fun.
you. Lots of games. So nowadays, many games are being released in a book format instead of the tiling, right? Using the tiles. The board now is built into the book.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose that format?
I think the main downside with a map that's made from tiles is that it's really a lot of setup time. You're kind of searching around. You're like, where's this one? You're flipping tiles over, looking for the right side, connecting it together. With this being a game that we wanted to be accessible, we also wanted the setup time to be really fast. Like you can open up to the page of the book, put it on the table, grab the stack of tokens, put them on the spaces that are marked right on the map, and you're ready to start. Like you shuffle a couple of decks of cards. It's a really fast setup. I think the other advantage of using the artwork in a book is that you can make the art very specific to that location. Mm-hmm. When you're using modular tiles that need to fit together, you need to keep in mind like, okay, well, is this going to look weird if it's connected to this one? Like you can't have a desert background connect to a jungle, like whatever restrictions you have. And so it just allows you to fully embrace kind of the location and make it very specific to that. And the setup time, like I said.
Loved it. We loved it. We open and the setup is really fast, and then we go into the adventure. Very cool.
I mean, the biggest challenge, honestly, with the maps was making sure that they all worked as mercenary missions as well, because there are certain rules that are specific to the map. Like, okay, how do you open this locked door? Or there's some even wackier stuff in the expansion that you have to make sure isn't going to break once you are hunting an ATST on this map.
The way that you made the tutorial engraved in the first mission, it's genius. You start playing, you start learning, and you don't even realize that you're learning a game. You are only enjoying the experience. Was it how hard was it to make it a progressive learning as you build the game?
For those who haven't played the game, basically how it works is that there is a deck of cards called the guide deck, and there's a card on the top of the deck that tells you, all right, read the rule book. That'll teach you everything you need for the first mission. When you're ready to start the first mission, when you complete the first mission, flip this card over. And so our goal, once again, was making sure that anybody could play the game, but we also wanted there to be additional mechanics and crunch for the players who enjoy that. And the best way to do that is by making the first game as quick to get into and play as possible. And so basically, after you beat the first mission, you flip it over and there's a card that says, okay, there's a new type of card that's going to get added into your deck. They all have this symbol on it. Here's what it does. And then you take the next 8 cards, you shuffle one into each player's deck so everybody gets one. And then it says, now play the second mission. When you complete that, flip this over. So it was pretty easy once we had the idea of it to kind of figure out like, okay, well, this mechanic we can introduce after your second game. This one's really important because you're going to be playing your 4th game on this map. So let's introduce this one here. And yeah, it wasn't too challenging. The question was just how much was the right amount of stuff to have players learn at the beginning. And people are going to have different opinions on it. If you're a really serious gamer, you might just say, I want everything from the start. I'm going to ignore the guide deck. I'm just going to shuffle all the cards into the deck and learn all the rules. Like, okay, you could do that if you want. There's also some envelopes that have like extra rule sheets and tokens and stuff that get introduced as you play. And some of them, this isn't really a spoiler, but some of them introduce new mechanics. Like there's an optional hidden trader mode, because there are moments, especially in season 1 of the show, where the Mandalorian gets betrayed by people he thinks he can trust. And so that is completely optional way to play, but that gets introduced pretty early on. And it just let us explore the world and give players lots of interesting choices. And honestly, I think it's just fun to know that, ooh, when I finish this, I'm going to get something new. What is it? I think it keeps you invested and it makes you want to keep playing.
Really nice, really nice. And so the game Mandalorian, it's a blast. People really like here in Brazil. And now Galápagos Jogos has announced the Mandalorian Clan of Two, Clã de Dois. It will be released in Brazil, and it's been announced. And what can we expect from it? Will it cover the season 2 of the show? What can you tell us?
Yeah, so the Clan of Two expansion, it's based off of season 2. So there's 4 new characters in there. I think they've already been spoiled online. We were showing that at a convention. There's Boba Fett, there's Ahsoka Tano, there's Bo-Katan, and there's Fennec Shand. And each of them play very different from each other. That was one of our design goals as we were creating characters from the game, is I really want each character to have their own combos and different things that they can do with their deck. And there should be at least one moment in each game when you get to do something really cool that nobody else gets to do. And so we definitely captured that in season 2 as well. So there's 4 new characters. There's 4 new maps that show different locales through season 2 with missions printed on them, of course, that bring you through that story arc. And then there's 4 new mercenary missions that you can play on those maps, or you can play on old maps, or you could mix old ones with new ones. So the number of combinations you get is even higher. There's some new cards that get introduced, some new mechanics. There's a dual deck. There's a new planning card, and a few other little surprises and wrinkles that you'll find. But we're right in the middle of our marketing campaign right now. So we just posted our first designer journal today, in fact. That talks a little about the missions and how we selected those. And I think there's 3 other journals that I wrote that talk about kind of each of the new mechanics and how those really add a new interesting thing to the game.
Well, since the box is the second season of the show, since Boba Fett is one of the new characters, can we expect a spin-off game for the Book of Boba Fett?
And I can't speculate on things that may or may not exist, but all I can say is hopefully the Clan of Two expansion sells well, because that'll give us an excuse to make more content for this game.
Lots of content, and a friend of mine played The Mandalorian with me, and after finishing, she immediately went to watch the show, the series. She hadn't watched anything from Star Wars since episode 3, and she didn't know The Mandalorian, and she played, and wow, interesting. And then she went and started watching The Mandalorian, and she loved it. I think she might have finished it in a weekend, the whole series, 1, 2, and 3 seasons.
Wow.
And she didn't know that, and because the game brought her. Can you imagine this? It was the opposite way. It's usually from the movie or series to the game. The game made her be interested and go to watch the show, and she fell in love. Oh, who's that small creature? Is it that little Yoda? And I explained, no, it's Grogu. And then she went back. That's interesting, isn't it? You were responsible for it.
I mean, that's like our licensor would love to hear that, right? Like our goal whenever we're making game is, of course, we are going to appeal to fans of the TV show or the movie that we're based on. But if we're bringing board gamers and letting them discover that show or movie, like that's just gravy. Like I love to hear that.
Thank you. I will tell. She will watch you when the video is ready. And okay, we're talking about the book of the Boba Fett, no, the Mandalorian season 2, which we are really excited. And question.
Yeah, I would like to ask you a question. Since you are a Star Wars fan, as we are, do you understand the appeal that Boba Fett has to the fans? He's a guy that stands on the side, don't have a line, and in the end is eaten by a mouse in the ground.
He looks cool. I mean, I think sometimes that's all you need. You make a really cool looking character and people go, ooh, who's that? I want to know more about that guy. I don't know. That'd be my guess.
Well, Corey, thank you. It's been an honor again with you. And look, 23 minutes, and we're not making a 1 hour and 30 minutes. But
is there anything in the oven in unexpected games other than the Mandalorian? You're working in some secret projects or something that you can tell us?
Yeah, I just finished working on my next new game. It's an original IP. I mean, I just finished it, so now it needs to get translated and printed. So you're probably not going to see it for like a year now. But I'm really excited about it. It's very different than anything else I've worked on. It is cooperative. It's, like I said, a unique IP. And we'll be talking more about it when we announce it later this year. But I'm excited about it. I think it's, of all the games that I've worked on, it's perhaps the most unique game that we've made at Unexpected Games. And of everything I've worked on, it has the potential to be like the biggest breakout success. But we'll see. Playtesters seem to really love it. But don't expect it to be like anything I've worked on before.
Would you come one day to Brazil? Would you?
I don't know. Like, I don't generally travel much, but if I ever come down that way, I'll let you guys know.
Well, we'd love to have you here in Brazil. We have a big convention here called Diversão Offline, DOFF, and we'd like to let's see. Who knows the future? What future holds?
Who knows what'll happen?
Good. Okay. So Corey, would like to thank you very much, and we enjoy every time you visit us here, to having you here. Lepe, it's amazed again. Our favorite designer. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys. It's great seeing you again.
Take care. See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye, Corey.